So you want to be a football referee. I get it. You love the game. You love the rules. You love the idea of running around for 90 minutes while 22 millionaires scream in your face because they don't understand the offside rule. In most countries, this job is just mildly annoying. In England, you get called incompetent on Twitter by a guy named Barry 56 with a blurred profile picture. In Spain, you get accused of favouring Real Madrid by Barcelona fans and favouring Barcelona by Real Madrid fans. It's stressful, sure, but usually you get to go home with all your teeth intact. But then there is Turkey. Being a referee in the Turkish Super Lig isn't a job, it's a survival horror game. It is literally one of the most dangerous professions in modern sports. It's like being a lion tamer, except the lions are club presidents, the whip is a yellow card that nobody respects, and the audience is armed with lighters, coins, and occasionally corner flags. If you're a referee in Turkey, you don't need a whistle. You need a panic button and a direct line to NATO. We're talking about a league where the definition of constructive criticism involves a club president sprinting onto the pitch to deliver a right hook to your eye socket. We are talking about a league where Jose Mourinho, the final boss of referee intimidation, has arrived to turn the toxicity dial from unbearable to nuclear winter. We're talking about a place where teams literally walk off the pitch in protest, where foreign VAR officials have to be flown in like UN peacekeepers because nobody trusts the locals, and where the post-match interview is less about tactics and more about which conspiracy theory explains why a throw-in was awarded in the 43rd minute. Why does it suck to be a Turkish referee? Because in every other job, if you have a bad day, you get a stern email. Here you get a hospital bed. Buckle up, grab your riot shield, and let's dive into the absolute madness. 1. The day the president became a boxer, the Halil Umut Meler incident. Imagine you're at work. You've just finished a presentation. It wasn't perfect. Maybe a slide had a typo, but you got through it. Now imagine the CEO of a rival company sprints across the boardroom table, knocks you to the floor, and starts pummeling you while screaming that he's going to kill you. That sounds like a fever dream, or a scene from Fight Club, right? In the Turkish Super Lig, that's just a Monday night in Ankara. We have to start with the incident that made the entire world stop and say, wait, what is happening in Turkey? December 2023, Ankara-Gücü vs Rizespor. The match ends 1-1 thanks to a stoppage time equaliser. Frustrating for the home side, sure, but usually the president of the club just stews in his VIP box, smokes a cigar, and fires the manager the next morning. Not Faruk Koka. Oh no, Faruk Koka decided to take matters into his own hands. Literally. He stormed onto the pitch, bypassing security like they were cardboard cutouts, and delivered a haymaker to the face of FIFA-licensed referee Halil Umut Meler. Meler went down. And then, because this league doesn't do things by halves, Koka's entourage decided to join in and kick the referee while he was on the ground, curling into a fetal position. Let's look at the hard evidence of how insane this job is. Meler is one of Turkey's best referees. He does Champions League games. He's the guy you trust. And he left the stadium with a fractured eye socket and a trauma that would make a war veteran flinch. The league had to be suspended. The referees went on strike. The president of Turkey had to intervene. And what was the defence? Koka later said, "I meant to spit in his face, as if that makes it strictly better." "Oh, sorry, Judge. I only intended to biologically assault him. The physical assault was just a slip of the fist. Being a referee here means you're not an authority figure. You're a punching bag for the egos of powerful men who treat football clubs like personal fiefdoms. You know it sucks to be you when the pre-match warm-up includes stretching your hamstrings and checking your health insurance policy for acts of presidential violence. 2. The deep state paranoia. Or why everyone thinks you're a spy. If the physical violence doesn't get you, the psychological warfare will. In the Premier League, if a referee makes a mistake, fans say, he's blind. In the Super League, if a referee makes a mistake, fans say, he is a sleeper agent sent by the shadowy cabal to destroy our club's history and ruin our economy. In Turkey, there is no such thing as human error. Did you miss a handball? It's not because your view was blocked. It's because you received a wire transfer from a rival holding company at 3 a.m. Did you award a soft penalty? It's a political statement. Every single whistle is analysed not by sporting standards, but through the lens of a massive interconnected conspiracy theory that would make flat earthers say, okay, that's a bit of a stretch. Let's look at the recent chaos involving Galatasaray and Fenerbahce. These two giants hate each other with the energy of 1,000 dying suns, and you, the referee, are stuck in the middle. When Fenerbahce felt the officiating was biased against them, which they always do, they didn't just issue a statement, they threatened to leave the league. They fielded their U19 team in the Super Cup against Galatasaray and walked off the pitch after 1 minute. Think about that. As the referee of that Super Cup, you show up, you blow the whistle, and one team literally just leaves. You're standing there, holding the ball, looking like the loneliest man in the world, while the biggest clubs in the country turn your profession into a farce. The distrust is so profound that the Turkish Football Federation, TFF, had to start importing foreign VAR officials for high-profile matches. Imagine being a Turkish ref and your boss says, "Yeah, look, Ahmed, we like you, but nobody trusts you not to cheat. So we flew in a guy named Hans from Germany to sit in the video booth because he's the only one who won't get his tyres slashed." It is the ultimate professional humiliation. It's like a hospital flying in a doctor from another country to double-check your surgery while you're still holding the scalpel, just because the patient is convinced you're trying to steal their kidney. 3. The Mourinho factor, the final boss of toxicity. Just when you thought it couldn't get worse, in walks Jose Mourinho, the special one, the man who could start an argument in an empty room. Fenerbahce hired him not just to win titles, but to weaponize the media against the officials. And boy, has he delivered. Mourinho didn't take long to adapt to the Turkish climate. He poured gasoline on it. After a match against Trabzonspor, which ended 3-2 to Fenerbahce, instead of celebrating a massive win, Mourinho went on an 8-minute rant that should be studied by historians. He targeted the VAR referee Attila Karaoglan by name. He didn't just say Karaoglan was bad, he said, "The man of the match was Attila Karaoglan." He claimed the referee was drinking Turkish tea instead of watching the monitor. He said the league smells bad, and that nobody outside of Turkey watches it because it's so corrupt. Now, pause. Imagine you are Attila Karaoglan. You're sitting at home. One of the most famous managers in football history, a man with millions of cult-like followers, has just painted a target on your back. He has told the entire nation that you are not just incompetent, but actively malicious. He has implied you were asleep. He has turned you into a meme. In England, Mourinho was cheeky. In Italy, he was dramatic. In Turkey, he is dangerous. His words mobilize millions of fans who are already on the edge. When Mourinho says a referee is the enemy, that referee can't go to the grocery store without looking over his shoulder. He posted a video on Instagram mocking the decisions, literally analysing the game on a laptop to prove the refs are clowns. He is crowdsourcing hatred. So why does it suck to be a Turkish referee? Because you are now in a tactical battle against a manager who is better at manipulating the narrative than you are at doing your job. You're fighting a PR war against a nuclear superpower, and your only weapon is a plastic whistle and a yellow card that nobody cares about. 4. The Battle of Trabzon, when the pitch becomes a UFC octagon. Imagine you are a substitute teacher. You turn your back to the chalkboard for 1 second to write algebra, and when you turn back around, the students aren't just throwing spitballs, they have fashioned shivs out of rulers and are staging a full-scale prison riot. You don't have a taser, you have a piece of chalk. This is the exact feeling of refereeing a match involving Trabzonspor and any of the Istanbul Big Three. We have to talk about March 2024. Trabzonspor versus Fenerbahce. This wasn't a football match, it was the opening scene of Gladiator. Fenerbahce won 3-2. As the final whistle blew, the whistle you blew signalling the end of hostilities, the Trabzonspor fans decided the game wasn't actually over. It was just moving to the Battle Royale phase. Hundreds of fans stormed the pitch. Security melted away like ice cream in a sauna. We saw Fenerbahce players literally fighting for their lives. Bright Osai Samuel had to drop a fan with a right hook. Michy Batshuayi tried a spinning heel kick on a pitch invader. It was absolute anarchy. Now, put yourself in the referee's boots, specifically Halil Umut Meler. Yes, the same guy who got punched in the face 3 months earlier. The universe hates this man. You are standing in the middle of a literal mob. Your authority relies on the players respecting the rules. When the fans are sprinting at the players with corner flags used as spears, yes, someone actually used a corner flag as a spear, your red card is about as useful as a chocolate teapot. The why here is simple. The security infrastructure in Turkish stadiums is often just vibes. As a referee, you are the designated adult in a room full of people who have lost their minds. But the bouncers, security, are often too scared or too incompetent to stop the chaos. You aren't just officiating a sport, you're unintentionally hosting a pay-per-view brawl. And when the dust settles, guess who gets blamed for losing control of the match? You. Not the guy with the knife. You. So being a Turkish referee means realising that at any moment the sport can stop, and you will become a terrified spectator in a live-action reenactment of the Purge. 5. Your DMs are a crime scene. Social media manhunt. Imagine posting a picture of your cat on Instagram. It's cute, it's fluffy. Within 5 minutes you have 40,000 comments. None of them are about the cat. They are detailed descriptions of how you ruined the weekend of a 28-year-old man in Istanbul, accompanied by Google Maps screenshots of your house and threats that would make a mafia don blush. Welcome to the digital life of a Super League official. In most leagues, fans yell at the TV. In Turkey, fans treat finding a referee's private information like it's a national scavenger hunt. After every controversial derby, the referee's phone number gets leaked. Their family's social media accounts get flooded. It is a digital siege. The clubs themselves fuel this fire. This is the why that makes it so insidious. Official club Twitter accounts, verified accounts with millions of followers, will post high-definition slow-motion videos of your mistakes, with captions like, "The Butcher of Istanbul," or "The Thief of Our Dreams." They aren't just complaining, they are painting a target. They are legally distinct from incitement to violence. But spiritually, they are handing out pitchforks. Take the Galatasaray versus Fenerbahce rivalry again. When a referee makes a call, the opposing club's president doesn't just appeal to the league. They go on TV and question your lineage, your bank account, and your morality. They weaponize their fan base. As a referee, you cannot have a public life. You cannot have a Facebook account. Your wife cannot tag you in photos. You have to exist as a ghost. If you order a pizza, you probably use a fake name just in case the delivery driver is a Besiktas fan who remembers that offside call from 2019. You aren't a public servant. You are a fugitive hiding in plain sight. So not only do you have to dodge punches on the field, but when you get home to check your phone, you're greeted by a wall of text from Ultra's Lion 1905, explaining in graphic detail why you shouldn't have awarded that throw-in. 6. The boss hates you too, the TFF circus. You might be thinking, well, at least my employer has my back, right? Wrong. Dead wrong. If the fans are the Sharks and the club presidents are the Wolves, the Turkish Football Federation, TFF, is the guy who pushes you out of the boat and yells, "You swim!" The job security of a Turkish referee is non-existent. The Central Referee Board, MHK, changes its chairman more often than the average person changes their toothbrush. In 2022, the TFF decided to fire 13 top-tier referees, including legends like Cüneyt Çakır, with zero explanation right before the season ended. It was a red wedding for whistles. Why? Because the big clubs complained. In Turkey, the federation is terrified of the big four: Galatasaray, Fenerbahce, Besiktas, Trabzonspor. If a club president screams loud enough, the TFF will sacrifice a referee to appease them. It is a ritualistic offering. Oh, you're angry about the penalty? Here, take this referee's career. We will banish him to the second division. Are you happy now? Please don't hurt us. Then, the courts got involved, reinstated the referees, and everyone had to awkwardly work together again. Can you imagine the workplace toxicity? Hey boss, remember when you fired me last week because Fenerbahce issued a press release? Yeah, I'm back. Where's the coffee? The TFF constantly changes the rules too. One week they are flying in foreign VARs, the next week they aren't. One week they are using a semi-automated offside system. The next week they are debating if the lines were drawn correctly. You are working for an organisation that has no backbone, no consistency, and no loyalty. You are a pawn on a chessboard where the kings are allowed to flip the table whenever they are losing. So, you have the stress of the Premier League, the pay of a mid-level accountant relative to the players, and the job security of a seasonal Spirit Halloween store employee. Why do you do this? Seriously, why? 7. The VAR room, aka the panic bunker. Imagine you're playing a video game. It's a high-stakes tournament. If you lose, your house burns down. Now imagine that every time you pause the game to check the map, a committee of 3 people argues for 6 minutes about whether you pressed the X button or the O button, while a mob outside throws bricks at your window. Welcome to the Video Assistant Referee, VAR, room in Turkey. In England, VAR is annoying because it kills the flow of the game. In Turkey, VAR is an existential crisis. It was supposed to be the saviour, the cold, unfeeling machine that would eliminate bias. Instead, it became the Zapruder film generator. Every single freeze frame is analysed not for accuracy, but for intent. Look, he paused it at frame 42. If he paused it at frame 43, the pixel of the striker's toe would be onside. Why did he choose frame 42? Who paid him to choose frame 42? Was it the Illuminati? The hard evidence of this failure is the introduction of foreign VARs for critical matches. Think about the level of self-own that is. The Turkish Football Federation admitted publicly that the atmosphere is so toxic and the local referees are so compromised by pressure or perceived bias that they had to import Portuguese, Italian, German and Dutch officials to sit in a room in Riva and look at screens. And even then, it's a disaster. Remember the Fenerbahce vs Kasımpaşa match? A penalty was given for a handball that, depending on your camera angle, might not have even touched the hand. The VAR debate raged for days. The technology hasn't removed the controversy, it has just given us high-definition evidence that nobody knows what the hell is going on. The why is simple. VAR in Turkey isn't used to correct clear and obvious errors. It's used to re-referee the entire game because the on-field ref is too terrified to make a call without daddy's permission. The main referee will stand at the monitor for 5 minutes, sweating profusely, knowing that whatever decision he makes, 50% of the country will label him a traitor. Is not officiating, it's paralysis by analysis. So being the VAR guy sucks because you are the wizard behind the curtain, but the curtain is transparent and the wizard is currently having a panic attack because he can't find the offside line on the computer. 8. The leaked tapes, the Hugh Dallas Inquisition. If there is one thing a referee values, it's the locker room code. What happens in the meeting stays in the meeting. You get yelled at by your boss, you learn, you move on. But in Turkey, your performance review gets leaked to YouTube. We have to talk about the Hugh Dallas leaks from March 2024. This was the moment the profession hit rock bottom. A recording of a private Zoom meeting between the Turkish referees and Hugh Dallas, the TFF's head of referee education, was leaked to the public. In this meeting, Dallas was absolutely grilling referees Abdülkadir Bitigan and Özgür Yankaya about a controversial penalty call in a Galatasaray match. It was brutal. Dallas is asking, why did you give this? And the referees are stuttering, sounding unsure, basically admitting, I don't know man, the vibes felt like a penalty. The referee, Bitigan, literally admitted that after watching the replay, maybe it wasn't a penalty. Now, imagine you are that referee. You made a mistake. Fine, it happens. You're getting chewed out by your boss, standard corporate life. But then, millions of fans hear you admitting incompetence in your own voice. The leak was weaponized instantly. Fenerbahce used it as proof of a rigged system. Galatasaray used it as proof of a conspiracy to undermine them by leaking it. This destroys the one thing a referee needs to survive: authority. How can you walk onto a pitch and command respect from Edin Dzeko or Mauro Icardi when they have heard the audio of you sounding like a confused intern on a Zoom call? You can't. You are dead meat. The why here highlights the deep rot in the system. Who leaked the tape? Someone inside the organisation. You're working with snakes. You're in a room where you are supposed to be learning, but someone is recording you to use as political ammunition later. So, being a Turkish referee means you can't even be honest about your mistakes in private, because your apology will be remixed into a diss track by the opposing team's social media manager. 9. The TV pundits, the Scream Team. You finish the game, you survive, you get home, pour a drink, probably a double, and turn on the TV. Big mistake. Huge. Because now you have to watch the analysis. And by analysis, I mean a group of middle-aged men screaming at each other until their veins pop. Turkish football punditry is a genre of entertainment that defies explanation. It is not match of the day. It is Jerry Springer with a soccer ball. The king of this circus is Ahmet Çakar, a former referee turned TV personality who treats football analysis like performance art. This man has worn a bikini on live TV because of a lost bet. He has brought actual props to demonstrate conspiracies. He screams. He yells. He accuses referees of being part of operations. In England, Gary Neville draws lines on a screen and says, he should have been tighter there. In Turkey, a pundit will look at the camera and say, the referee, Ali Şansalan, is a disgrace to his family, and I have information that he ate dinner with a bespectacled man who knows the cousin of the Besiktas vice president. These shows run for hours. They dissect your body language. Look at how he smiled when he gave the yellow card. That is a smile of malice. That is the smile of a man who hates our colours. They normalise the hatred. They take the raw anger of the fans and give it a vocabulary. The why is all about ratings. Calm, rational analysis doesn't sell in Turkey. Chaos sells. Rage sells. And the easiest target is you, the referee. You can't sue them. Well, you can, but good luck. You can't fight back, and you can't go on their show to defend yourself. You are the silent piñata. So, not only do you have the hardest job on the pitch, but you also serve as the main content for a nightly television circus that exists solely to assassinate your character for ad revenue. You aren't just a ref. You're the villain in a reality TV show you never signed up for. 10. The foreigner. Threat. Why you are replaceable. We touched on the foreign VARs, but let's talk about the existential dread of the foreign referee debate. Every season, like clockwork, when the controversy gets too hot, the club starts screaming, "Bring in foreign referees! We don't want Turkish refs anymore!" Imagine working as a chef, and every time a customer complains about the soup, the restaurant owner screams, "That's it! We're firing all of you and flying in chefs from Italy! Turkish people cannot cook." It is insulting, it is demeaning, and it hangs over your head every single week. The clubs campaign for this constantly. They believe that a referee from Germany or England will somehow be immune to mistakes, which is hilarious, by the way. Have they seen Premier League referees? Have they watched Anthony Taylor? But I digress. The grassroots belief is that Turkish referees are genetically incapable of being unbiased because they grew up in the culture of the Big Three. This creates a work environment where you are constantly told you're not good enough, not because of your skill, but because of your nationality. You are battling an inferiority complex imposed on you by your own countrymen. The TFF flirts with the idea constantly. They bring in foreign observers. They bring in foreign VARs. You're slowly being outsourced in your own league. The why is a classic case of the grass is always greener. Turkish clubs refuse to accept that football is a game of errors. They need a saviour. And until that saviour arrives, you're just the placeholder, the budget version of the real referee they think they deserve. So you wake up every morning knowing that your employers are actively researching how to replace you with a guy named Jürgen or Pierluigi, simply because his passport is different. It's not just a job, it's a constant fight for legitimacy. 11. The Derby of Doom, Galatasaray versus Fenerbahce. Imagine you're a bomb disposal technician, but instead of cutting the red wire or the blue wire in a quiet room, you have to do it in the middle of a heavy metal concert, while 50,000 people scream that you're a coward, and the bomb is actually a ball that 22 millionaires are trying to kick. This is the experience of refereeing the Intercontinental Derby. In Spain, El Clásico is about art. In Argentina, Boca versus River is about passion. In Turkey, Galatasaray versus Fenerbahce is about survival. If you're assigned this match, you don't celebrate, you update your will. The pressure is atmospheric. It crushes submarines. The entire week leading up to the game, the media talks about you. Who is the referee? Is he a secret Galatasaray fan because his uncle once ate baklava in Floria? Is he a Fenerbahce sleeper agent because he owns a canary? Let's look at the stats. The ball is usually in play for about 45 minutes. The rest of the time is spent separating fights, listening to VAR, and waiting for the flares to clear so you can actually see the goal. The fouls aren't tactical, they're personal. When players like Mauro Icardi and Edin Dzeko get in your face, they aren't asking for an explanation. They are challenging your existence as a sentient being. During the infamous 0-0 draw in December 2023, the one right before the Super Cup chaos, there were 45 fouls. That is one foul every 2 minutes. You aren't refereeing a football match, you're refereeing a stop-and-start wrestling event, and God forbid there is a controversial position. Remember the Dzeko vs Icardi punch-push in the penalty box? The replays were inconclusive, the angles were terrible, but the referee, Arda Kardeşler, had to make a split-second decision that would determine the mood of the entire nation for the next month. The why is the sheer density of hatred. This rivalry defines Turkish society. The referee is the lightning rod for a century of historical grievances. If you give a soft penalty in this game, you aren't just changing the score, you're allegedly disrespecting the legacy of Ataturk, the Ottoman Empire, and the club's founding fathers. So, Being the derby ref sucks because no matter how perfectly you call the game, one side will claim you rigged it. You walk off the pitch knowing that for 50% of the population, you're now public enemy number 1. 12. The apology tour, humiliation rituals. In a normal job, if you mess up, you have a private meeting with HR. Maybe you lose a bonus. In the Turkish Süper Lig, if you mess up, the system demands a public sacrifice. The culture of the league has evolved into a bizarre ritual where referees are expected to be shamed publicly to appease the bloodlust of the clubs. We've seen moments where referees are forced to come out and practically beg for forgiveness. The TFF, Turkish Football Federation, has a habit of throwing its employees under the bus to save its own skin. When the pressure from the Big Four becomes too much, the TFF doesn't defend the referee's decision-making process. They suspend the referee and leak that he will be punished. Look at the treatment of Cüneyt Çağlar. This man is the GOAT of Turkish refereeing. He officiated a Champions League final. He was at the World Cup. He is literally the most successful referee in the country's history. And how did Turkey treat him? In 2022, the MHK, Central Referee Board, unceremoniously dumped him and a dozen others mid-season without a valid reason, effectively ending his domestic career in a chaotic purge. If they can do that to the king, imagine what they will do to you, the peasant referee who just missed a handball in a Konyaspor match. The why is that Turkish football culture perceives kindness as weakness and silence as guilt. If the federation doesn't publicly flog the referee, the clubs threaten to boycott the league. So, you become the sacrificial lamb. Your reputation is torched so that the TFF president can keep his seat for another 6 months. So not only do you have to be perfect, but you also have to accept that your career will likely end not with a retirement party and a cake, but with a press release stating that you are incompetent, followed by a quiet exit out the back door while the mob sharpens its pitchforks. 13. The money. High risk, low reward. But surely, I hear you ask, they must be paid like kings to deal with this insanity. Ha 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 ha. Oh, you sweet summer child. No. While the top players in the Super League are earning $5 million, $8 million, or even $10 million a year, tax-free mostly, the referees are earning a decent middle-class salary. The gap is astronomical. A top-tier Turkish referee makes good money by Turkish standards, sure, maybe a few €1,000 per match plus a monthly retainer. But compared to the stress, compared to the danger, compared to the fact that you might get punched in the face by a billionaire, it's peanuts. Let's run the math. You are officiating a match where the total market value of the players is $200 million. A single mistake could cost a club millions in Champions League revenue, and you're being paid the equivalent of a used Honda Civic to manage this high-stakes financial transaction. This disparity creates a massive power dynamic issue. When a player yells at you, "I make more in a week than you do in a year," he's not lying, he's stating a fact. And in a culture that worships status and wealth, this makes it incredibly hard to command respect. You're trying to discipline guys who could buy your entire neighbourhood. The why is that the system relies on the honour of the profession, but honour doesn't pay for the therapy you're going to need after a season in the Super League. You're taking on CEO-level stress for middle management wages, so you're underpaid, overworked, physically threatened, and publicly mocked. But hey, at least you get a free jersey, right? Oh wait, no, you have to give the ball back at the end of the game. 14. The revolving door of chaos. The MHK meat grinder. If you think the fans are volatile, wait until you meet your actual bosses. In most jobs, you have a line manager who stays in their role for a few years. You build a rapport, you learn their style. In the world of Turkish refereeing, the Central Referee Board, MHK, changes its leadership faster than a Premier League manager during a relegation scrap. The MHK is the governing body that assigns referees, grades them, and ultimately decides their fate. And it is a basket case of instability. In the last decade, the MHK chairmanship has changed hands more than 15 times. Let that sink in. That is more turnover than a fast food drive-through. Imagine you are a referee. You spend 6 months adapting to the style of Chairman A, who wants you to be strict on fouls. Then, overnight, he resigns, or is forced out by the clubs, and Chairman B comes in. Chairman B wants you to let the game flow. You adjust. 2 months later, Chairman B is gone because he accidentally offended the president of a major club, and now Chairman C is in charge, and he wants you to use VAR for everything. This lack of institutional memory means there is no development. There is no long-term plan. You are working in a Kafkaesque nightmare where the rules of engagement shift based on which political wind is blowing through the corridors of the Turkish Football Federation. You can't build a career foundation because the ground beneath you is constantly liquefying. The why is brutal. The MHK is not an independent body. It is a political football. The major clubs lobby openly for the removal of MHK boards they don't like. If Galatasaray or Fenerbahce feel aggrieved, they don't just ask for a referee to be dropped, they demand the resignation of the entire board, and shockingly often, they get it. So being a Turkish referee sucks because you are trying to climb a ladder that is being actively sawed in half by the people holding it. You're a soldier in an army where the generals are fired every time a battle is lost, leaving you on the front lines with no orders and no backup. 15. The European dream. The glass ceiling. Every referee starts with a dream. You don't pick up the whistle to get spit on in the third division. You do it because you want to be the next Pierluigi Collina. You want to walk out to the Champions League anthem. You want to officiate the World Cup final. But if you are a Turkish referee, that dream is suffocated by the reputation of your own league. The toxicity of the Super League is so potent that it radiates outward, infecting how UEFA and FIFA view you. Cüneyt Çakır was the anomaly, the diamond in the rough who managed to break out. But for everyone else, you're tainted goods. When European committees look at Turkish referees, they see the chaos. They see the punched-in-the-face incidents. They see the walking-off-the-pitch protests. They see the leaked Zoom meetings. And they think, do we really want to bring that energy into the Champions League? You are fighting a battle on two fronts. At home, you are too European and soft for the rugged, violent nature of the Super League. Abroad, you are viewed with suspicion, seen as a product of a corrupt and broken system. You're stuck in professional purgatory. The why sucks the most here because it's not your fault. You could be a brilliant technician. You could have the eyes of a hawk and the fitness of a marathon runner. But because you operate in a league that treats rules as suggestions and referees as enemies, your ceiling is artificially lowered. You watch referees from smaller leagues with less drama get the big assignments simply because their federations aren't setting themselves on fire every Tuesday. So, you're trapped. You're the best pilot in the world, but you're flying for an airline that has a 50% crash rate, so nobody else will hire you. 16. The final verdict. Why do you do it? We have covered the physical assaults, the digital stalking, the conspiracy theories, the political firings, the low pay, relatively speaking, and the utter lack of respect. We have established that being a Turkish referee is less of a job and more of a psychological experiment to see how much abuse a human being can take before they voluntarily check themselves into a sanatorium. So, the ultimate question remains, why? Why would anyone with a functioning frontal lobe sign up for this? Why put on that jersey? Maybe it's the adrenaline. There is no drug on earth that hits quite like the rush of silencing a stadium of 50,000 people with a single whistle, even if they are silencing themselves to inhale deeply before screaming insults. Maybe it's the power. For 90 minutes, you are the law in a lawless land. You're the only thing standing between civilization and anarchy. Or maybe, just maybe, it's because you are a masochist. You have accepted that suffering is the default state of existence, and you have decided to monetize it. You are the ultimate stoic. You are the man in the arena, face marred by dust and sweat and blood, and saliva from an angry winger. But let's be real, it sucks. It sucks in a way that is unique, vibrant and terrifying. In England, you get criticised. In Italy, you get analysed. In Turkey, you get hunted. You're the villain in a national soap opera that never ends. You're the designated scapegoat for the failures of billionaires. You're the punching bag for a nation's frustrations. If you're thinking about becoming a Turkish referee, my advice is simple. Don't. Go be a lion tamer. Go be a bomb disposal expert. Go wrestle alligators in Florida. It's safer, the pay is probably better, and the alligators are less likely to tweet about your mother after the encounter. So yeah, if you see a Turkish referee walking down the street, don't yell at him. Just give him a hug, he needs it, and then maybe check him for a wire. Subscribe for more content.